Welcome to the Clean Power Hour Live. I'm Tim Montague. It is January 12th. And, here at the Clean Power Hour, we are speeding the energy transition, bringing you the latest and greatest in clean energy news, solar, battery storage, wind, and all forms of clean energy. So check out all our content at cleanpowerhour.com. We do this Thursday live news roundup with my co-host, John Weaver of PV Magazine. And then we do one-on-one interviews, which we drop on Tuesdays. Welcome to the show, John Weaver.
I just want to know one thing, Tim.
Just one?
Wow, a lot.
I'm going to hold you to it.
What do you think about my new glasses? They're kind of thick in the frame, but I got new glasses. Just one. They're reading glasses because I'm getting old apparently. And because I keep everything tiny on my screen, apparently my doctor, who's my uncle, told me, John, you need reading glasses. It's that time of your life. So these are my new frames.
Welcome to the ordinary world of getting older. And yeah, I think they're cool. They make you look like an artiste.
Oh, totally an artiste. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. Solar requires creative talents. It's a lot of engineering and built environment stuff, but you got to be creative. So I lean into that part of my skill set every day. Well, what's going on in your world, John?
Oh, wow, man, it's busy. Let's see some of the things going on. Our residential company is starting to move a tiny bit. We have a small project that's completing construction. We got two projects, smaller ones, 25 and 50 kW that we signed for construction. Still writing for PV Magazine as much as I can, trying to keep up with it. Had a lot of legal stuff to go through with a deal that we're working on, tons of lawyer stuff. The lawyers are expensive, of course, but it just takes a lot of mental time. Tons of things going on. I'm really optimistic on solar and the IRA and everything I see, and everybody's talking. And now we're officially in 2023, which is true 100% IRA land. For me, because projects take a year or two, I was IRA immediately when it's signed, whereas everyone else is like, oh, now the IRA is ready. I was like, I guess sort of. But there's, it's just a lot going on. I'm trying my best to grow my company just a little bit so it can be a sustaining machine.
I thought you were going to say you were trying to grow your beard, and I'm like, oh well, you should get busy.
Yeah.
Chris Lutman has joined us on the live here, and I want to give a shout out to Chris. He's a solar consultant out on the West Coast, and he commented that in the Marine Corps we called those glasses BCDs, birth control device.
Thank you, Chris.
I don't think that's true, but
Chris and I are buddies. He's allowed to say that.
Yeah.
So
no, I know you guys know each other. And Chris is a solar panel source, right? What's the brand of solar panels that Chris is selling? He can type it in the chat if you don't know it, John. I can't remember.
Hyperion. And they're made by a company named Runnergy, who has a history of making solar cells and maybe wafers as well. And they recently bought a module assembly factory maybe a year or two ago. We actually have a small purchase coming from them. That's probably in the United States now, but at minimum, they were on the ocean for a while. And
manufactured they're in Southeast Asia, or where are they?
Vietnam, I believe, is where they're going to be assembled.
China. I think he pointed that out to me when I spoke to him.
They are a Chinese company though. So, but they weren't, I don't believe they were included in any import tariff challenges. So it seems like they're okay. They recently signed a 1.6, and we should ask Chris to put this one in the room, but they recently signed, oh, look at that. John, panels arrived. Got word final testing in China for ATI is complete. Look at that. So Chris is working awesome. So Chris, tell us, you guys signed a 1.6 gigawatt deal to supply a U.S. developer. I'm interested. I didn't get past the headline, but I'm wondering who that developer is, if it's allowed as of yet. I'm I don't know. Anybody's doing 1.6 gigs, man. That's awesome. Yes, 3-year supply agreement, confidential. Understandable. Understandable. But it was on the headline. So, Chris, I hope you close the deal, and I hope that means you get a commission because, that would be cool. So, yeah, 3-year supply agreement, 1.6 gigs. So that's like 533 megawatts a year of doing some solar, man. That's awesome. That must be hard to keep
Chris
up.
is a loyal listener, so I invited him to unmute if he wants to introduce himself to our listeners here on the show. I only got to meet Chris a couple weeks ago for the first time, but I appreciate him joining us. He's a regular here on the Thursday Live, so really appreciate that.
He is. Yeah, we could interview Chris too, because he has a lot of development experience in a lot of different states, and he's worked for a couple of big companies. He still does development, and he knows a lot of stuff. He's good with spreadsheets too. He's a solar guy. He knows development, land, and spreadsheets.
We're going to be talking about BIPV. We're going to be talking about the Florida commercial solar market. We're going to be talking about a unique racking product I recently learned about for both flat and sloped roofs in high wind environments like Florida and the Caribbean. And there's a shortage of electricians, which is good for my son because he is applying to the IBEW to become an electrician. That's a great story out of Canary Media. But I'm going to go to the Mitrex story. And it's, I'm shocked, John, that I didn't know about this company before. Had you known about Mitrex?
I guarantee you we have brought up Mitrex on the show before, and I've shared their modules before. And you and I actually maybe even saw them they were sitting out the last show that was out in Cali. They had a big stand right in front of it outside.
Really? No, I'm not familiar with Mitrex. I certainly have never seen this photo. I mean, the cool thing about this, so they make a solar facade product, and all the brown in this facade is also solar. You've got some
gorgeous,
explicitly solar panels under the windows there. I don't know if those are screens or what, but yeah, the brown facade on this is a solar facade product out of Canada.
That's good looking stuff. And they have other ones. They have 4 or 5 modules I've seen, including 1 or 2 that look like amazing camouflage, standard tiles, standard shingles. And it's like, wow, that's, this is their solar facade product, which is awesome. But their shingle tiled product looks just like, and there's their list of products right there. And you look at it and you're like, wow, that's a roof tile. But nope, it's a solar panel. And so it's pretty cool module. I think they probably lose 5 to 10% of their efficiency. If it was a 20% module, yeah, there you go. I mean, yes, it's still a bunch of things up on your roof, but at a quick glance, if you have the right install and you did the right work and you took your time,
in better than traditional black panels. And so, yeah, I just think it's great to see this BIPV industry maturing, and for multifamily especially, or high-rise office, right? These products are so important, right? Because on a multifamily apartment building, you just have a small roof to building volume, so you're only going to be able to offset a small percentage of the load. And generally it's a walk away, you don't go there. And so we need BIPV. Oh man, that is some sexy solar glass. I love this.
I really like when an architect figures out how to make some panels that are not only functional, but truly aesthetically fit. And here there's a design. And that prior image you saw, there was a design with those 4 or 6 panels that were used, and they just fit, and it looked neat. It's just like, there's a little accent, a little artistic accent. And I like that semi-transparent. That's what you saw on that one building.
Yeah.
Was the semi-transparent. And it's like, wow, good work.
Yep. So check them out, Mitrex, Mitrex. And what are we going to do next? Let's talk about electricians. You know, we are going to electrify everything, meaning we electrify heating and cooling, we electrify transportation, we electrify industrial heat. And what that means is we're building a lot more electrical infrastructure. We're tripling the grid, very likely, a lot more juice, but it's a double edge because you need electricians to install this stuff. And this story focuses on, I think, the author's experience, or a friend of the author's experience in California, trying to get their panel upgraded on their home, I think in Berkeley, California, right? Many older homes have 100 amp panels, and you got to have at least a 200 amp panel typically to install solar or solar and battery. And so you need a panel upgrade. And that means running some additional wires or new wires from the closest transformer to the house, so you get more juice to the house. It's not a big deal, but it's a deal if you can't find a contractor who has any availability. And that's the long and short of this. I'll put this on screen briefly. So it's the message here is, if you're a person casting about for a career, consider the trades. We tend not to promote the trades very well in American public schools. I think it's a travesty, because especially being an electrician is a high paying job. And there's a tremendous shortage of electricians. We're going to need thousands and thousands. Oh, right. It's also a carbon copy episode, the great electrician shortage, and the carbon copy is a great podcast. So what are your thoughts about the electrician shortage, John?
I think it's something that matters. By the way, Chris, you are live, so we just heard you say February on the show. So be careful what you say. Yeah, there you go. Oh, he's back on mute. Dang it. I was hoping him to join in and say something smart. Chris is smart.
I don't know about saying anything smart, but thanks, guys. And I really appreciate the plug and the kind words that you put out at the beginning of the show. And just enjoy it. And, you know, I'll chime in if there's any questions you guys want to throw at me regarding PV modules or development or financing here in the U.S.
Yeah. Hey, yeah. So, Chris, tell us how much capacity does Runnergy have available? If I call you and say, I got a gig, can you supply me a gig?
Yeah, absolutely. So right now, as of December of last year, they were at 2 gigawatts on the module capacity and 5 gigawatts on cell capacity. As you had mentioned earlier in the show, John, Runnergy is primarily a cell manufacturer. This year, Hyperion Runnergy will be operating by the end of this year 7 gigawatts. And that's coming out of the Thailand facility. They're making moves to actually start processing the raw polysilicon as well in Thailand. So they're controlling, the vertical really, and from the raw polysilicon all the way up to and including the module.
Do they make utility scale and commercial and resi, or is it just utility scale commercial?
Great question. All three categories that you just mentioned.
All right, cool. And then separate, and Chris, you're gonna have to send a commission to Tim later since we're advertising you here.
Yeah. Just give me your routing number and everything. I'll take care of
it. So 9 to 5 when you're not flipping modules, and you work directly for Runnergy, because I've gotten emails from you from Hyperion Solar. So just to let everybody know.
Yeah, absolutely. And I still have my CL Green Consulting, where I'm basically working on the M&A side of transactions for really community solar on up through and including utility, but I do some behind the meter, large scale C&I financing. I have resources that investors and financiers that are looking to finance projects anywhere from 250 kW up to and including 5 megawatts behind the meter.
All right. So Chris is a developer. He has some cash access. He's good with spreadsheets, knows a lot of phone numbers, and he'll be really honest with you during the pricing process. Those are some of the details I know. And he's also based in New Mexico. So that means, I think New Mexico. Are you in New Mexico?
No, I travel there a lot. I'm actually in Southern California, right side of
geez.
Anaheim.
Okay, yeah. See, I have no idea what I'm talking about. I was going to make a green chili joke, but it
They're
doesn't
the best.
matter.
Hatch green chilies. Can't beat them.
So I guess now he's got New Mexican friends. So there you go. All right. Back to the show. Sorry, Tim. You invited him on, so now you got me talking to him.
It's all good. I'm glad he was able to get his mic working. And we're gonna do one more let's shot here, and then
let's talk about the. Let's talk about the electrician thing a touch more.
Okay, yeah. Canary Media shortage of electricians. It's real.
It is definitely real, and you know what? I'm not sure how it's going to play out, but with the IRA, with IRA offering us tax credits, they threw in a new niche, a new dynamic, and that dynamic is that for any projects that are greater than 1 megawatt AC, then the company has to pay prevailing wage, and they have to have an apprentice program for the electrician. So not only do they have to pay prevailing wage, they have to have a young guy on the field, young electrician in the field, learning from the experienced folk. And I believe the ratio is, it's either A, 4-to-1, or B, you have to bring on your first one once you hit 4 full-time installers. And I'm, as a small company, we don't have 4 installers on the books yet, and we're not doing too many 1 megawatt AC and above systems. We haven't signed any yet for the IRA, the new window. We have a few bids out, and I had to do my spreadsheet, and it was very different to have prevailing wage as my labor costs instead of Massachusetts wage numbers, which are close to the 70 grand a year, 80 grand a year for installers. Now it's like 6 figures if we are able to hold a year of installing that way. And so it's a thing to watch. The costs are going to be higher. Well, we have to charge customers higher, but hopefully bringing in that money, charging the higher rate, we'll be able to get more electricians and maybe motivate more people to become electricians. Occasionally I'll get an inbound call from a guy saying, "Hey, I want to become an electrician." And I push him toward, a company that has a much more consistent installation rate. I also hear that, and it's going to take a little while, but the IRA also put in place incentives on a state level to allow for installations, or to allow for incentivizing electricians and getting more electricians into the field. And as of yet, the states, to my knowledge, haven't rolled out the programs that back the IRA and use this cash. But I would love if we at some point got somebody on the show to teach us and the world about how the different states are training people and how actual contractors can tap into these resources. Myself, I think we really should hire ourselves an apprentice first and have them complement our electrician, because we could use the apprentice for a lot of things, site visits, just taking some pictures, doing a Q&A, but you got to learn how to use these people properly so that you can afford to keep them and you can give them a consistent career. So just hiring somebody for 6 months isn't really going to work. And so it's a learning thing for a small company like me who's just trying to get on their feet. I'm sure the bigger ones can handle it. The medium-sized shops are going to have some challenges though, because they run tight. They got a budget. They got a good, sharp team. And I know some of these shops. I talk to them, and once they start having to break a megawatt, it's going to be a challenge for them. So,
yep. But
we gotta push electricians, and just throw it out there. Not every state ends up with good electrician wages. In the Northeast, where we have strong unions, Massachusetts and Rhode Island specifically, we have very strong wages for electricians because there's ratios. You have to have a certain number of master electricians to apprentice to journeyman, and if you don't, you get in trouble. And so that helps drive higher quality. But I'm from Florida and Texas, and in those places, there's no rules on that. And you can have a master electrician, the guy pulling the permit, and he doesn't visit the site. You got a bunch of randoms working on the site.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, obviously your install cost is going to be lower. Your install quality might not be lesser because the people doing the work are good quality people in general, but they're not necessarily paid well. And that was part of the reason I was never in any sort of construction in Florida, is that construction is just not paid well in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
And I bet it's similar-ish in Texas. I don't know that for a fact, but I know in Florida, unless you're the top 1, 2, 3 people, bam, you're at the, $15, $20 an hour range. And that's hard to live on. So if we're going to,
I worked for an IBEW contractor in Chicago, Continental Energy Solutions, and we had a group of colleagues around the country, including companies in Texas. So I do know that the IBEW exists in Texas. The solar work that the IBEW does in Texas is different than here in the upper Midwest, where we'll do soup to nuts, really, mechanical and electrical install with IBEW workers. But it varies. But in Texas, it was strictly the electrical scope, right? And then the mechanical was being done by someone else, meaning attaching the racking and the panels to the racking. And then the electricians come in just to wire it.
Yep.
But anyway, these traineeship requirements of the IRA, they are a pain in the rear for the contractors per se, but it's good for the economy, right? Because it forces all of us to embrace traineeship, and it will create this surge in opportunities for young people to get into the trades. And that's really the only way to drive that economy. If you just do status quo, there's just going to be this chronic shortage of electricians. And that's no bueno. As I like to say, we need more, we need a lot more electricians. So because tripling the grid is no small matter, and solarizing the grid, it's a both and. So I say bring it on, and yeah, you have to up your game and partner. You can partner. You don't have to create the training program yourself. You can partner with a training organization, or do it yourself. It's a both and. And I think we'll probably see more contractors joining the union, because the union has the machine figured out already, right? That is their status quo. They recruit young men and women to become trainees. They have a 3 or a 5-year program. My son is exploring this right now. And then you take a test. You got to be able to do math. That's why they call the electricians the brain surgeons of the trades, right? Because they have to have more smarts than a grunt who's just carrying panels and ballast around. Electricity is dangerous. You also have to have a lot of common sense. But it's totally doable, right? You don't have to be a brain surgeon. Although they use that expression. It's funny how they refer to. Do you hear that in the Northeast, John? That electricians are the brain surgeons?
That's just marketing from the electricians.
I like it.
I mean, it is the hard work. They are the ones doing the dangerous stuff. Getting into those
especially
panels.
If you're doing medium voltage, right? I mean,
Yeah,
that's
dude.
some really scary stuff.
Absolutely.
Those electrons like to jump air gaps and wreak havoc. But
yeah, I step back. I always step back from that work, and I just stop talking because I know they know a lot of stuff, and I know it's challenging, and I don't want to be the guy to distract. And I know there's so much I don't know. And so I do my best.
Let's talk a little more about the Florida market. I want to give a shout out to Carlos Ferreira, a solar installer down there in the Miami area. I've gotten to know recently. He's doing large commercial, industrial rooftop solar across Florida, and then also in neighboring states. He's got a project in Alabama, in Georgia. But But the Florida market is not a well-known DG market, right? Because FPL, Florida Power and Light, really has a death grip on the DG market, but it is allowed, and it does pencil in about 7 years. It sounds like 7 or 8 year ROI.
Yep.
So, businesses can save money by going solar. What is your take on the Florida DG market, John?
So I'm from Florida, and it's where I cut my solar teeth from 2008 until 2015. And the state utilities, it's a big money state. If you got a lot of big money, you can buy some politicians, you can get laws. And the state utilities in the state of Florida absolutely control the public utility commissions, which means there is no third-party electricity sales. So the key is either A, do a first-party sale where the customer fully takes ownership, or B, you lease them a system that emulates what a PPA price would have been, but it can't be for electricity. It has to be modeled as a lease. Mm-hmm. And you figure out your numbers. One positive of Florida is that they have net metering, and it's 1-to-1 net metering. So that's pretty good. Yeah. Additionally, the price or the sunshine is decent. Plus, as we mentioned earlier, the cost of labor is lower. So there are some positives to installing. Now, there's some challenges too. Along the water line, the wind code requirements are through the roof. In fact, in some places, you can have a wind code requirement that's 185 miles an hour. And I've been in that before. And installation in Coral Gables once that we did needed 3 rails. So instead of having 2 rails to attach your module to the roof, the local inspector said they wanted a 3rd rail. And so we had to do one right down the middle of the panel. And that's how we got our wind code approved for this project in Gables, which is a very nice area.
What is the NOA? I see something called the Miami-Dade NOA.
NOAA, maybe, the national...
Notice of Acceptance, I see.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
so if you're like, I learned about this product, which I'll put on screen here in a minute, called Solar Stack. And the commercial approach is to do flat mounted, and they've got this foot that glues to the roof membrane, and then you mount the racking on that foot. But they've got this NOA, which I guess you have to have, right, for whatever racking product you're going to use, because it is Hurricane
Alley, baby.
Alley.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Florida and the Caribbean.
Yeah. So the NOA is, I believe it's the Miami-Dade building department that ends up approving products and giving it. It's so the Miami-Dade
Regulatory and Economic Resources is what this letter is that I'm looking at. Board of Code Administration Division.
So Miami-Dade building department guides pretty much everybody that's along the coast from North Carolina down around Florida and then across to like Louisiana maybe, because of the wind code. And Miami-Dade wind code is the most aggressive. They have the big resources. They have the resource. And everybody just kind of follows them once they put out the code, because they say if it covers the Miami-Dade stuff, then everyone else is going to be okay. Because, if it's, Hurricane Andrew is what set this stuff in motion. 1992 was a horrendous hurricane, and we saw that our building code was old and houses were just ripped apart. And since then, the wind codes have gone up, and the various tools used to reach those wind code requirements have grown. And my commercial experience is very limited in Florida. My installation experience in Florida is with Resi, and we would literally strap. You would see the roof structure get strapped to the building structure to literally tie the roof instead of just using nails, but even use special nails with little hooks, teeth that hold it in place.
Yeah.
So Florida commercial, what I would say the key is that you got to get your costs tight. And you got to have a good roof attachment, because there's so much rain that you don't want to do 1 million holes. However, it's really hard to do ballast because the wind code requirements. And how are you going to do 185 mile per hour wind code with ballast? You're going to have a truck up there, just a cement truck just pouring. So there's a lot of techniques that are working toward it to
Yeah,
minimize
and
attachments.
and that's what led me to this product, the solar stack. Now,
Yep.
you have to check this out with your roofer, whoever, your you want to make sure that this is approved by the roofing vendor as well. But this product was originally designed, you see the foot, it's basically a foot, and those grooves at the bottom are designed to catch into a foam that you spray on, and then it hardens, of course. And so you're gluing these feet to the roof. And I'll show
With-
a, let's
You can see that video
I
on
think
the
we
right.
got a-
Oh,
we got
it's
a-
neat.
that one didn't
Private
work.
video. What the heck is that?
They have some good videos here. That was more of a resi. Oh, here's the foot going on to a flat roof.
That's
Which
nice.
is cool. You see they've got the conveyor belt approach here. One guy's spraying down the foam, one guy's putting the feet down. And then of course you're just gonna put another attachment on there, some kind of L bracket, right? That will
Mhm.
attach to the racking.
Yep.
And away you go.
That's
I haven't.
That's a really interesting product, man. There's multiple foam products I've seen over the years being developed in Florida, so I'm not surprised to see more foam-based products. I knew a group in the Tampa area who had a great spray down foam technique, and it's I've been hearing about it. I've never been involved in a project myself on it before, but I think the Orlando Convention Center has a foam. Oh, here's that crazy wing coat. Check that out. Look at the 180s, 170s, man.
Yep.
Oof.
But this product was originally designed for cement shingle roofs. So for residential. And you can imagine shingle roof is a little more difficult when it comes to attaching the racking. And so these guys just designed a product that just glued on top of the tiles. And now I did talk to Byron Lofton of Aspen this morning, and he questions whether or not all roofing manufacturers will allow this type of product, because you have to think of the chemical compatibility of the membrane and the foam. So it's deep water. You just have to talk to your roofing manufacturer. But in theory, this flat flush mount to a big commercial roof, I like it. And flush is, low load, low weight load, low wind load, no ballast, right? And I have to say, I really like it a lot. As long as it's durable and it doesn't cause the roof to fail.
Yeah, there's another version of this where you can extend a roof life by doing a spray foam on top of it. And I've never personally dealt with it, and I don't know what a roofer would say to the quality of it. But you do the same thing. You spray this gunk and you start, like I saw one guy do a big flat panel that was like you're flashing, but just imagine your flashing being a foot by a foot and just laying flat on the roof. And then you do the spray over the whole roof, and the flashing is sitting on the roof, and then this foam starts to harden. And so you have a large foam surface. And it sounds interesting. It sounds like a great ballast replacement, so we don't have to put the heavy weights up there. As well, it could add to the viability of the roof. And, if you have somebody who's got a roof that's at like year 12 and they're like, what do I do? Solar roof? Well, maybe this foam stuff can make it hold out through the life of the solar and keep leaks from the area underneath the panels. It's just interesting product. I wonder how we could get it.
Well, you can definitely get it.
I don't know. Maybe I should reach out to them.
Stack. Or are you talking about this other membrane enhancer?
Well, the solar stack, the membrane enhancer, in my mind, they're similar-ish products, similar-ish things. So, one or two. I want to see it work. And if things work in Florida, then it's going to work wind code everywhere else. So I wonder if it's available.
Yeah. Well, in neighboring Georgia, Qcells is expanding their solar panel factory. That news was all over the media. I mean, this isn't a new story, right? They actually announced this, I think, last year, but I guess it's becoming more concrete and they're putting some flesh on the bones of what exactly they're up to. They're going to expand to 3.3 gigawatts of solar panels per year. That is a lot of solar panels, John.
No. Actually, it's more refined. They're adding 3.3 gigawatts to an already existing.
Total production was going to be 3.3.
At this facility, it will be 3.3. So they currently have a facility that's 1.7 running.
Okay.
I believe they're in the process of expanding that to another 1.4, which makes 3.1 gigs of module assembly manufacturing. And then this new facility will be a fully integrated ingot, wafer, cell, module facility. And it will be, it's not the first time the country has had a fully stacked solar module manufacturing facility. For instance, First Solar, technically, I think is fully.
Yeah.
And they're just different technology. Plus, Solar World. Way back in the day, Solar World was pulling ingots out of giant furnaces in Oregon. I remember their marketing to me in 2008. I thought that was the coolest thing in the world. I knew nothing about solar panels then. I just knew I wanted to be in solar. And they've done some good stuff. Well, they did some good stuff, but now this is new. 3.3 gigs coming from them. And the announcement last year wasn't truly an announcement. It was a scoop that was, they were researching sites. And I reached out to their PR guy, Scott Markowitz. And I said, hey, what happened to that Texas site? As well, the Texas site was supposed to be a 9 gigawatt fully integrated facility.
Mm-hmm.
And he pointed me to a quote in a Wall Street Journal article, which said those other facilities are still being considered, but this is the one that was moved on first. So there's still a chance for Hanwha, or for Qcell in the US is their branded name, but Hanwha Qcells, still a chance for them to move up to even